Okay, folks. So, really excited to share my client Justin Casteel's results with you all today. Justin came into the program at the end of last year. So, he's done we're into like 7 months now in the program, and he's got some pretty awesome results that we're going to chat about in more detail today. So, Justin, really appreciate you taking time and jumping on the call to share your experience, mate. Let's start with a bit about yourself, like who you are, where you're from, age, all these things, so people can kind of get more of an idea of you and your situation.
Sure, Connor. Thank you very much for having me. So my name is Justin Casteel. I'm 37 right now, going on 38. I live in Maryland in the United States, and I've kind of been more or less a dabbler in movement for my life and most of my career. I started out in 2005. I got certified as a personal trainer through a program here called National Personal Training Institute. In 2008, I graduated from a yoga teacher training. Unfortunately, the studio is not here anymore. In 2009, I started with a program called Tai Chi for arthritis. And so more or less, I kind of meandered back and forth through movement, through weight training. But over the time that I've spent, I've kind of gotten appreciation for mindfulness, for how movement can affect your everyday. But I think the thing that I struggled the most with was consistency. I've always been enthusiastic about it, but sometimes the planning and execution weren't always there. So I think probably the number one thing that I've gotten from the program is that structure, looking at not just what exercises to do, but more or less a total lifestyle program. And that's kind of what I see your program as, is looking at your fitness habits, your movement habits, your dietary habits, and also social habits. So how everything fits together for wellness and well-being. I'm the closest I've ever been to my weight goal. And I put a lot of that on the macros, and then thinking about choices and the structure around eating and diet. So
Yeah, love it, man. And like, yeah, you're a proper OG in the fitness industry. Like 2005, there's not a
yeah.
lot of people walking around who can say they're still in the fitness industry from 2005. So very, very cool. I didn't realize about the yoga, mate. So you're yoga certified as well. I knew about the Tai
I said
Chi. I knew you
I
were
do a
into it
little
as
bit of
well.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, but you made a really good point. It's definitely something I see a lot, like, and it's something I struggle with myself as well when I don't have a coach. Like I've basically had a coach write my programming for I think since 2016 now, because it's just very easy to become inconsistent, and like
hmm
it's easier to, tell people what to do than sometimes implement it yourself without that accountability. Um, so I definitely get you like about the consistency. But what would you say, was there anything you were skeptical about before coming into the program? With regards to maybe, it's an online program, all of these things.
I think the biggest thing, and I think that maybe other trainers probably have this too, is like, oh, why do I need somebody else to tell me what to do? I have all this education. I have a lot of experience in programming. What is it going to do for me? Why do I need somebody else? Maybe it was a kind of a hit to the ego. Why do I need somebody else to tell me what to do? But if anyone is out there listening, I would say that that's exactly the reason that you need a trainer. The fitness world is so huge. For me, one of the things I started this year was doing some Instagram, and there are so many people out there who are phenomenal performers. Both physically, there's a couple of people that I follow that are phenomenal on the dietary side of it. And it's impossible to parse all that information by yourself. It's so easy to get sucked into the latest, greatest program, or somebody else's method, and you can pull from all different sorts of places, but And in order to be able to parse it and make it meaningful, you almost have to have somebody else looking from the outside in. And that's been a huge thing for me as part of the program, is that focus and consistency.
Yeah, man. Just as you're saying there, it's like one of my favorite quotes is from Dan John. He says the coach who writes his own programs has an idiot for a client, which I'm like,
Yeah,
that's so good. Like, cause I was like,
it
oh,
really is.
why am I getting all these injuries and feeling like I'm not getting anywhere with my training that I'm writing and programming for myself? And then all of a sudden, my injuries start disappearing and my results start going through the roof when someone else who's objective, as you said, starts actually writing proper programs for me.
Mhm.
Um, Also like Andy from GMB, who I'm sure you know and you've crossed because you're in the GMB community. He has a really good analogy around food, like, getting bits and pieces of dietary, from this guy and training from this guy, and like you're kind of mixing it all together. He
Mhm.
uses a food analogy, which I love. It's like if you like Mexican food, Thai food, and Indian food, you know, using a third of an Indian recipe, a third of a Thai recipe, a third of a Mexican recipe, it's going to be a mess. Like it's not going to be a better
Yeah.
meal. And that's very much like programming as well, I find. I think it's such a great analogy. Let's go into your breakthroughs, mate. What would you say were your big breakthroughs over the last few months in the program?
So one of the things I was working on last year, again, kind of in bits and pieces, was getting my pull up. So my pull up feels very solid right now. That's one thing I haven't necessarily made any breakthroughs on. I'm still kind of in that uh, mid, around 5 sets of 5 solid pull ups. So that's something I've been able to maintain. Um, Everything else, I feel good. I don't have any pain. I wake up in the morning, I can hop out of bed and do what I need to do. So as far as any major physical skills, um, the pull-up is going to be the big one. Some of the individual stretches that were in your program surprised me, just how kind of good they felt. And I think, from a yoga background, Tai Chi background, someone who already felt pretty mobile, I didn't have any specific major gains, but everything feels good. And I think that as somebody who's almost 40, being able to say, I don't have any pain is a huge win. And being able
Yeah.
to say, I'm within 5 pounds of what I considered to be a dream weight, also feels pretty good.
Yeah, man. I think like you're saying, just staying on track, like not bouncing around to different things. Would you say that's been helpful as well?
That's been extremely helpful. I think that again, there are so many different programs out there. There are so many different systems that if you can stay doing the same thing long enough, you're going to get results. So I think that one of the things that I have been guilty of before is doing the first 4 or 5 weeks of something and then switching to something else. So having that consistency and being able to go back and say, this is where I started, and I've been doing the same thing for, like you said, 7 months now. That for me is a win, because I never really had that kind of consistency in my life before.
Yeah, man. That's huge, mate. And then like with regards to maintaining that consistency, can you tell people maybe, what parts of the program helped that? Like was it the community? Was it the habits? Like what were the parts that allowed you to stay consistent and show up
Definitely
and
the
progress?
community and the accountability. I mean, having the Monday check-in, having the calls on Wednesdays, doing the food Friday, just showing up. And I think that that's a really common thing on Facebook, is to just copy and paste and put your thing in. So it doesn't take a lot of time. But just knowing that other people see it, having you and the other trainers respond to it, knowing that there is that greater level of accountability, and just seeing other people's wins. If you're doing it by yourself, sometimes you can cheer yourself on if you see the numbers on the scale change, or if you see you're getting stronger. But having other people cheer you on too is pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's something I didn't realize when I was doing fully in person, and then when I went fully online. The online community has a massive impact. I've gotten so much feedback on this for what you were saying, like people getting cheered on and feeling supported, but then also just from people seeing like, oh, you've been open about some of the setbacks you've had, and like other people
Mhm.
have as well. So you realize like, oh, okay, like Justin's still successful even though he's had a few setbacks. So I can be successful as well, even if I have a bad week or a bad few weeks, as long as I stay on the path, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, kind of going back to, physical breakthroughs and what the real impact of the program. Since I started the program, it's not been all smooth sailing. Things happen in your personal life. Um, Everybody struggles with something, and just to be open and honest about it, I have a issue with alcohol. So there were a couple of times since I started the program that I had a relapse, and then you have to pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and keep going. So there were a couple of weeks here and there where I didn't um, make my workout goals, and I wasn't tracking food. But having the structure of the program, having the trainers, I had a call with Bradford that was kind of probably about a month ago. Um, that was really very meaningful to me. So not having to go through that alone makes a big difference, and having a structure to get back into makes a big difference. Um,
Yeah, for sure, man. And I appreciate you sharing that, mate, because that is private stuff. So, but I guess it's an important point because whatever the thing is that you don't want to do, and you feel like you had a bad week or a bad month, um, the quicker that you can recover is always going to be the biggest thing. Like it might be something to do with alcohol, or it might be like a food related issue that the person is like,
mhm,
oh, I had a bad Friday or Saturday, and then the whole week goes, then that week goes, and there's more shame and guilt, and the whole month goes, and then it's like, Jesus, it's been 3 months now. So I think having that structure is huge, man.
mhm.
Um, and the consistency as well. So like, were there any specific habits that you found that were really helpful to really keep you on track?
Honestly, the evening wind down has been kind of the most eye opening for me. I always thought, I'm one of those people, I never really have trouble sleeping, um, and you can kind of take that for granted. But the trying to get in a good evening wind down where you put the phone down, where you get off social media, where you turn off devices, that was a struggle more than I thought it would be. And also it had ended up being a lot more beneficial than I thought it would be. um, I have a Fitbit and I track my sleep quality, so the nights where I have a really good evening wind down habit, my overall sleep quality is better. My blood oxygen content is better. My resting pulse is better. Um, so even though I would never have said that I had a problem with sleeping, having a good solid evening wind down, um, I have more energy through the day, and just I'm able to quantify that I'm having better sleep.
Yeah, that's huge, man. It's like, it's such a good point that sometimes you don't realize how much things can improve because what is your current situation feels normal to you.
Mm-hmm.
And technology in particular, that's always just such a game changer. You get off your phone an hour before bed, and if you can stay off your phone in the first hour in the morning, go for a walk, like you'll feel like so much better than like being stuck to social media, getting into bed. First thing, you grab the phone beside your desk, you're on Instagram. Like it really fries your brain. So I'm glad that you touched on the importance of that habit as well. So
Well, and especially because right now my job, we're a 24/7 fitness center. So sometimes I'll have to go in and do an overnight or a partial overnight and go in at 3 a.m. or go in at 10 and stay until 6. So the nights where I do sleep well, it makes so much of a difference when you have to stay up or you can't sleep. I'm sure with you with the travel, making sure that you have a good solid sleep habit to fall back on. I think that a lot of people overlook the importance of the little things that we do on a daily basis, right? So making sure that you're getting enough protein, going to bed on a regular, it might not make a huge difference when you look at a single day, but when you add it up over 6 and 7 months, it makes a huge difference in your life.
So well said, man. I think that's a good way to finish off today. So actually, last question is, if you could recommend someone who you think would benefit from the program, who would be a good fit and maybe who mightn't be suited to the program?
Gosh, I think that people like me, people in their mid to late 30s who have maybe a history of doing a lot of different types of exercise, who think that, you know, you have a certain knowledge base, so you get, I don't want to say cocky, but yeah, you might feel like you have a good understanding of it and could just use a little bit of structure. So yeah, if you're 30 to 40, if you have a couple pounds to lose, if you've tried a bunch of stuff and you keep trying a bunch of stuff and you're not getting the results that you want to see, then Connor's the guy for you.
Awesome, bro. Really appreciate your time, mate.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's I think that maybe the target demographic would be, you know, looking at my personal experience, people around my age and my condition. But I really think that everybody could benefit from structure, from having a trainer, whether you're a grandmother or whether you're in your 20s just getting started. You know, to have that experience of working with a trainer who has a community, who focuses on lifestyle, that, in my opinion, is a rare thing in the industry. And pretty much everybody is going to get something from it. So thank you so much. You've impressed me from when I first saw you on the GMB community, and I still want to grow up and be like you.
Amazing.